All right, William, what did you bring me today? This is something really cool and new, right? This is the Maxace Raptor. This is the Maxace Raptor. This is a Karambit. It is a titanium liner lock, really frame lock. It is in Magnacut. Let's get into this. We're going to talk about how it performs. We're going to talk about looks and features. First, I want to get into how this performs, and I want to kind of clear up some misconceptions about this knife. There's been some confusion about how it is set up. There have been people who have been thinking that this is set up for a right-handed carry in the pocket, so that it's kind of a utility carry. You pull it out with your finger and then use it in a forward orientation. But that's not really what this knife is set up for. What this knife is set up for is offhand defense when you're carrying a firearm. So if I'm carrying my firearm and somebody would try to reach up behind me and grab my gun and take it from me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the bottom of the holster and shove it up into my waist like this to stop them from taking away. And then I'm going to draw the karambit with my left hand and then defend myself, get them to back away so that I can then draw my firearm and challenge that way. So it's more of an offhand defense mechanism, and that's how it's set up, and that's why the pocket clip is on the left side. So there's some confusion to be cleared up there, and hopefully that helps with that. But how does this perform with regular use? So edge retention, this knife did 400 cuts before the edge failed. I did take this one to failure. That is good for Magnacut. It is a little on the soft side, which is exactly what you want for self-defense and something that's going to maybe see some impact, so it's not going to chip. Obviously, we're going to test it on rope. It's a Karambit, so it hooks really well into rope. This is going to cut very well. It doesn't want to slide off the end as you're cutting rope. The rope kind of bites right back into the curve of that blade and slices very well. Slicing through dowels, cutting into something hard like wood, it bites in really well, right? You're not going to slip off of something and cut yourself. Digging into packaging and things like that, it does a great job of that because of that curved blade. Where this falls flat is kind of cutting on flat surfaces. So if you're cutting against a flat surface like a cutting board or something, it only really touches with the very tip. So that's not really what these blades are designed for. So you do lose that bit of utility. But for what it's for, it's a great blade shape. Let's talk ergonomics and construction, because they've done a very good job of making this for what it's designed for. First of all, I mean, it's a beautiful knife. This Timascus inlay, the titanium overlays with the coating on them. This knife is even more beautiful in person than it is online. When I saw this online, I kind of thought, it's a mechanical looking knife. Getting this in person, it absolutely has the looks to back up the price that they're asking for it. Construction wise, this is very sturdy. This stop pin that they've put through the blade, first of all, it stops it going closed and open, which is great economy of design. But when you have a stop pin that rests on the outside of the handle of the knife here, it not only stops the blade from opening too far, but it gives you some left to right stability because this is out here and creating leverage this way. This is probably the sturdiest way to do a stop pin. You can see it makes contact with the whole surface here of that cutout, so that this is not going to wear very much over time. So fantastic design there. The liner lock, you can see, has a massive amount of metal on it. Even down here in the place where it's thinner, they've done it in 3 places and made that very, very sturdy. It's a nice wide piece of metal, as you'll see when I disassemble it. So this is more like a sturdy frame lock than it is like a liner lock. Pocket clip was very tight when I got it. I actually had to slide some cloth underneath the pocket clip and lift it up carefully to bend it out so that it would clip my pocket and not be too stiff. Because it was so stiff when I got it, when I was drawing it from my pocket, there's enough of a curve here that blade would kick the fabric of my pocket out over the wave opener, and it wouldn't open as I pulled it out of my pocket. Once I loosened the pocket clip, that problem went away. So just be aware of that. That pocket clip might need a little bit of work. There is a lot of thick metal on here. That's a nice thick blade, thick, sturdy side plates. Just a very burly construction, and something that, you know, even though this is a beautiful, almost showpiece knife, I would have no problem using this in a self-defense situation because it's just built like a tank. I love that about this knife. Small ergonomic quibbles about this knife. This finger hole is a bit small. So this knife is built for someone with large, strong hands like me. But that finger hole, I can just barely fit my finger through there, and that's not the most comfortable. It's the most comfortable here in this position with just my first joint through there. If you have big fat fingers, this is not going to be comfortable. They've done a good job of putting a thumb rest here in between the ends of the Karambit hole. As I was doing my extended cutting this way, this did rub a little bit. It wasn't too bad. Whether I was holding it like this or holding my finger through the hole, this area was just a little uncomfortable. It wasn't too bad, but it was enough for me to notice, although it didn't rub a blister or anything. Also quickly, we do need to talk about the weight of this knife, because this is a heavy knife. Let's look at ounces here. We're looking at 7 ounces even, which is heavy. It carries better in the pocket than you would think of for a knife that size. Here it is next to a zero tolerance 452. Let's move them over here. This is a Kaiser Odin, right? Also a large knife. So you can see this is pretty big. Here it is next to a Gerber Savvy, right? Large burly knife. Okay. Let's do some conclusions and then I'll do my disassembly. So conclusions are that this is a absolutely spectacular knife. It retains edge well, it cuts well, it does exactly what it was designed to do. It's a great self-defense knife. It's absolutely beautiful. So even though this is a very expensive knife, I do believe that this is worth the asking price, and you should definitely get it if you're thinking about it, and it fits your hands. So if you got the big fat fingers, maybe this isn't for you. But otherwise, you know, the rest of the knife is scaled very well for my XL size hand, just that finger hole. So conclusions, wonderful knife. Let's go ahead and disassemble it and see what it looks like on the inside. One thing I like about this is that they've made everything pretty much T8 hardware. They haven't done any T6s on this, on the outside at least, except for that little guy right there, I think. Yeah, that's a T6. So I like that. There's also a full hardware kit that comes with this knife, which is wonderful. If you lose a bolt, if you strip a bolt, whatever. Wow, that came out. That's actually the pivot. I unscrewed the pivot instead of the screw because it came out so easily. That's wonderful engineering, that you can take the pivot out with this thing fully locked. It's not even, the lock is not even worn. That's just incredible precision of engineering on that knife. That's seriously impressive that can even happen. Let me get the bolt out here. Okay, the bolt is stuck in that side, so we'll take off this entire side. Here are the side bolts. I believe these inlays are just kind of bolted on from the inside. So if you wanted to have a different look and save some weight on the knife, you could remove those overlays, the titanium overlays. Just a quick note, if you do take off the overlays, it brings the weight of the knife down to 5.5 ounces, so you do save a lot of weight there. That's kind of what the knife looks like without it. Again, not necessarily recommended, but it does save a lot of weight on the knife. We'll see what that looks like from the inside. Some of them, like the one that goes under the pocket clip, are going to be structural, so you wouldn't be able to remove them because they do have another important function in the in the construction of the knife. That one is a T6. I have to pop that one out with the T6. There we are with that. All these are coming out very easily. I am very impressed with the construction of this knife. There you can see the inside of the frame lock. Bearing or steel washers there for bearing races on the inside of the knife there for durability. There's your steel insert. They have recessed the bearings a little bit into the blade, but they've left plenty of blade there, and this is a relatively short blade, so even in a self-defense situation, because of the way they've done the stout pin there, that's better than it otherwise would be. Massive lock face, right? That's going to last a good long time. You know, just super impressive construction on this knife. There is a double row of ceramic bearings on there. They come with white lithium grease on them, which is a little different but cool. That little spacer on the back is held in with a pin. This is bolted in, right? That's from the outside. And you can see here, there's the inlay bolts. So I'm going to take these out just so that you can see that there are the ability to do that from the inside. So here's one bolt. Here's the other. There's 3 bolts on this portion of this inlay. We'll put the inlay bolts over here so that I don't lose them. I think these 2 are going into the little Timascus piece. Go. So there's the Timascus. There's that inlay. So you can absolutely take these off of here. I don't know that I would, but you could if you really wanted to make this knife lighter. So all of those come off. Like I said, none of these except for the one under the pocket clip are structural, although I think this one, let's get this popped out of here. There's the bolt that goes to the pivot. I believe this one spaces out the, yeah, it does. It spaces out the pivot bolt there. So if you want to leave this one off, you have to have a washer in there. I don't necessarily recommend doing that with this knife. But if you really wanted to save some weight, you could. So there is disassembly of this knife, even down to the overlays. Pull those off of there. That one's on there pretty tight. That one might have some thread locker stuck between the overlay and the knife. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time getting that off on camera here. Super cool knife. I like this a lot. I like it even better than I thought I would. So highly recommended knife. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. And if you're looking at getting this knife, I definitely would.